Greetings, everyone. Today, this is Alex, your friendly neighborhood advisor, and I'll be talking about how to create a positive financial lifestyle. All right, so there are three typical methods to do this. You either can budget, make cuts, or earn more. That's an oversimplification, but I'll dive into them each with a bit more flavor than it sounds. All right, so first, budgeting. All right, not everyone is good at budgeting. Not everyone can budget all that well, even if they're good at budgeting typically, or if they work as an accountant or have some skills or experience in that area. But what tends to work well for people is to take on a little bit at a time, figure out the best way to go about it. That is easy and convenient for you. What doesn't feel like an encumbersome task for you to take on? What are you actually curious about? Do you want to see what you spend on one particular thing? Or just make an example sheet of how much you think you spend or how much you want to spend in certain areas if you were to make a budget. And keep it simple. Just think, okay, I think I make about this much, I think I spend about this much, etc. Take a look at the sheet. You also can access tools online that can help you out with it. A lot of banks nowadays are incorporating things where you can actually find out there from different categories automatically how much you spend regularly on gas, food, etc. Uh, Other budgeting systems that work well are just keeping track of a particular area that you want to cut on and making cuts in that specific area. For budgeting, first you want to make a framework of what you do spend. You want to look at an average, somewhat. Just get a guess. Don't try worry about specifics. If you can't figure it out, then just do your best guess and then adjust as you go. And then once you figure out what you spend on things or what you think you spend on things, then figure out how much you want to spend in those different categories so that you can have more later for other things or so that you can have a more affordable lifestyle. And from there, you take a look at your income and expenses and what that balance is later. For the other way that people go about things, for income, usually what happens is you just look at cutting your expenses without a budget and you think about a few things that you want to cut, not just one. Pick a few and think, what do you actually feel like cutting? The reason why feeling comes into play here is because if it was easy to cut them, you probably would cut them already and you probably wouldn't be looking up videos about it, etc. So you want to have multiple options. Also, if one doesn't work, try another one. Try a different way. Maybe you're good at cutting things like if you vape or smoke cigarettes, maybe you're better at cutting those than others. Or maybe you'll surprise yourself by trying to cut one thing or another. It also puts in your mind multiple pathways to keep you interested. A lot of people that struggle to make these types of cuts or struggle to make these types of plans in general usually struggle with those aspects. And so it's a lot easier if you have a multiple choice system so you can work on one thing, and when you start kind of making compromises to the new plan similar to what you were doing before you made the plan, then you can switch to tackling another item in another way. You also can offset some things with others. Figure out why you do things. What emotional need do you have for that item? And then once you determine that, you can supplement that with something else. And what's interesting is when people supplement to something that isn't currently in their system, it's easy to cut out the new thing. So, for example, if you're trying to stop smoking cigarettes and you switch to a legal item that I don't know if I'll get in trouble for saying or if I'll get shadow banned or if it'll hurt the algorithm. But anyway, if you go from cigarettes to a legal recreational item as a substitute, then not only is it less addictive, but it can also be easier to cut later. So find the things that you struggle with, find ways to get out of the things you struggle with so that you have a less encumbersome task later. Another thing that I've found to be true about people is that it's hard to work on your weaknesses, but it's easy to work on your strengths. So if you choose something that's not in your weakness area, then you usually perform well in that area consistent with how you perform with the rest of your life. There's usually specific things that hurt us more, whether it be our mental pathways or just designed that way, chemical imbalances, etc., or just our habits, or we need to have a physical thing we're doing sometimes to substitute whatever that may be, whatever the habit is that we're trying to replace. You also can cut back on food and other categories as well. I guess focused on that particular area because it's come up recently with people who have asked me for advice. The next thing would be increasing your income. So as far as increasing your income, and it's kind of just focus on one particular area, not increasing your income in general and all the pathways you can go through to do that. But increasing your income is a helpful tip with it for a typical person with a kind of set in lifestyle. You should always be looking for other options. You should always be looking for other jobs, applying to other jobs, and use your current job as a basis for getting a job. It's really easy to do that, even if you don't meet all of the qualifications. People do like someone who currently has a job because it's easy to see that you can do well in a workplace, that you are hireable, etc. It looks good. Otherwise, the first question that comes to mind is what's going on and are they why are they unemployed now? And some employers that matters more than others, but in general, it just looks better, it looks stronger, and you come off better. Usually, your attitude, your confidence plays a surprisingly large role in getting a job if you have confidence when you're in there and if you really don't need the job. And also, they have that mentality as well, and you are more likely to get more money. So that's the tip about increasing incomes. So overall, in general, to kind of make this advice a little bit more coherent, I guess I'll make a final recommendation or a clear recommendation on kind of what you should do ideally if you're able to just all of a sudden have a good budgeting habit and get a healthy financial lifestyle. So I recommend getting a budget, figure out how much you spend on things, and don't overwhelm yourself. Don't get over specific. Just try to get something done as quick as you can. Set up a time limit and have something done in that time limit. Even if it's poorly constructed, it's more important to meet the time limit than to have it done properly, because usually if something's done, it's real easy to go back and revise it. But if you get stuck on a particular step, like trying to figure out exactly how much you spend on food or gas or whatever, then it's pretty overwhelming and not very fun, and people don't usually pick it back up after that if they don't get it right the first time. So, but when people do a bad job but they finish it, then oddly people will go back to it again and again and consistently use it. So start with that and make a budget. Figure out how much you spend. It doesn't have to really be categorized either, I suppose, but overall, how much do you spend typically, and then how much do you make in a typical month? And look at what that balance is. If that balance is negative, then you certainly need to make cuts. Otherwise, you're just going to fall further and further into debt. If you typically make more than you spend, you want to try to get that to 500 a month. That can sound weird, wild, overwhelming for people at first. I don't usually tell people that right off the bat, but I'm being very transparent here. I usually tell people to start saving about $20 a week or $20 a month. Pick an amount where if you didn't do it, you would be surprised. You would be astonished. You'd just be like, really? I just couldn't even save $20 a week or $20 from each paycheck. And set that to automatically go into a savings account that you pretend doesn't exist. And just build that up. Whatever you get above that, consider that fun money. So if you make, let's say, 200 more than you spend, and you're putting away, let's say, $100, that extra 100 at the end of the month, feel free to spend it. Because the reality is, when we have money and we know we shouldn't spend it, we actually don't spend it. But we're more likely to spend when we're trying not to. It's kind of weird. If you decide to save 200, it's really hard to not dip into that 200. So set the limit to where you'll actually succeed, and that's going to help build healthy habits. Once you dip into that savings, it's going to be a habit. It's going to be easy to do again and again. But if you pretend you don't have it, then the habit will actually be to leave it alone and not touch it. That's what you want to do, and you want to slowly build the amount that you're saving. How do you get to 500, and why did I pick 500? Well, why I chose 500 is because if you think about it, how often do you have to get a new car? And how much does a new car cost? How often do you have to repair that car? And how much does that cost? Me personally, it cost me about $1,000 a year to fix a car. Seems a bit high. I don't know if that's normal or not, but it cost me $1,000 a year. That is 2 of my $500 savings. So that's 2 out of the 12 months that I would be saving. That leaves me 10 months left. And when a family member gets sick, that's more. If I have to take time off because I'm sick or because I have to do something for the kids, that's more. So when I put all this together, it adds up to me saving not a whole lot of that actually. Also, at some point, you will need to save up to purchase a property, to purchase a home, or for something else, or in case something else comes up, or to make investments, or to be financially happy. So eventually, you're going to need some savings for when you need to buy that new car. Well, you should be saving up for that as well. So that way, you can just pay what you need to instead of having your job jeopardized by not having a vehicle or being desperate and getting a bad car that then costs you a couple grand. So you have to get a third car, things like that. So I recommend 500 a month. because it's usually what people need. If you can save 500 a month or build up to that, just start from wherever you are and make improvements. Improve by 20 bucks a month or 20 bucks a week, and then improve by another 20 bucks and keep doing it, because it's not about getting to 500 now, because if you didn't hear this advice, what would you be doing next month? You would be, what improvements would you make? So even if you're only making improvements by 20 bucks, it's better than last month. It's better than what you're currently doing. So it's still on the right path and in the right direction. So eventually you get to that 500, and that 500 will make it so that you can afford pretty much anything. You can get your dream home eventually. You can do anything with that amount. And that is why I chose that amount. It's so that you can get a luxurious home if you want, or you get a modest home with a lot of decent tech, or a regular home with a lot of fancy furniture, or you go out regularly instead of having material possessions, things like that. So it is enough to retire early and live your ideal lifestyle, even if you just have a simple, typical job. So that's my advice. All right. Well, I hope this helps somebody. Thank you very much. Have a good day.